can remember vividly when Chad got sick. We were sitting at our kitchen table here, and he had had a cold for a long time, and he just didn't feel well. And I can remember saying, "You don't look good, your eyes look gray, you need to go to the doctor."
He went to the walk-in clinic, and they did some blood work, and they called him back late that afternoon and said, you know, the blood work didn't look right. They needed him to come back and have another test done. The next morning, I was at the hospital with him when the doctor came in and told him he had leukemia.
I can remember him being sick and then starting the whole process, the chemo, finding out my mom was a match to be his bone marrow donor, and I just remember how excited we all were for that. And then going into remission after that stem cell transplant for a very short period of time, and he relapsed very quickly after that.
His organs just began to shut down, and the one thing we wanted more than anything, and one thing he wanted, was to come home. Dr. Jagacy was there, and you know, he helped us get him home to his house the next day, and he died that day. When Chad was sick, the one thing he kept asking me, and probably other people too, was, "Mom, how do people get sick when they don't have families to help them and they don't have insurance?"
The story was not about Chad himself. He saw the pain and suffering of the patients around him in the outpatient transplant unit. And Chad involved his friends, his wife Haley at that time, and said, "We have to do something else for all the pain and suffering that they encountered."
This was just something that was always on his mind. What could he do? What could anybody do to help these people? And that's sort of where Team Chad and the Hematology Helping Hands Fund was formed.
It's really been a great partnership with Team Chad. We reach out to them and let them know what our unmet needs are from a charity perspective, and they respond back.
Team Chad has provided for our patients financial resources, such as they provide lodging. They help with us with dental work, what we call aha moments and happy moments, where we can send families that are undergoing treatment on a nice adventure.
So the relevant example is Therese Binder. She was struggling to pay her rent, and that's where Team Chad came in.
I was 21. It was 2 months before my 22nd birthday, so those first 2 months were testing and a surgery. And then the week after my 22nd birthday, I started my first round of chemo. People don't realize that when going through chemo, it drains your finances, your free time, it drains you emotionally. I got to the point where I didn't know how I was going to pay my rent or pay my bills or even get groceries because I was so financially behind. And I guess my physician saw the stress looked on my face, and he asked me, "How are you doing financially?" And I started crying, and I told him how my finances really were. And then before I knew it, he sends me to the social worker, and she signed me up for this Team Chad fund. And that was what got me back on my feet, and I've been doing great since.
In a snapshot, the patient who is fighting cancer is not just fighting the disease. They're fighting the side effects of chemotherapy. They're fighting the stress of being away from home. They're fighting the financial stress that cancer inflicts upon them. Often patients have young families. They're fighting what if, what's the next step. So where do I see Team Chad 10 years from now? I see Team Chad as an integral part of the Vanderbilt Ingram Cancer Center, working with us shoulder to shoulder to help patients get through their treatment of leukemia and stem cell transplant.
If someone was considering being involved with Team Chad, I would tell them take the leap. It's an organization of young, excited people doing something for their best friend, who want to give back and help him continue what he was doing to fight leukemia and to help find a cure for leukemia. In small ways, in big ways, any amount of money, any amount of time, any amount of support is helpful.
If Chad were here today, what would he want from Team Chad? he would want every single person to interact with Team Chad and donate generously, to believe in the mission that he lived for, that is to support patients through their tough times and help with research. So my plea to all the donors that work with Team Chad is donate generously and believe in what Chad lived for.